A single uncontrolled thought, laden with chaos and darkness, took shape, challenging the perfect order of the universe. The human mind, so complex and powerful, harbors a hidden force that we often believe we can master. But what happens when it escapes our control? When this force manifests itself without limits, it can create something devastating. This force is called Yaldabaoth, a figure shrouded in mystery and darkness. It all began when Sophia, the personification of wisdom, made an impulsive decision that disrupted the universal balance. Without consultation or consent, she conceived an independent thought, which emerged without counterpart or harmony. From this isolated action was born Yaldabaoth, a monstrous and disordered creature. Its appearance was as disturbing as its essence, a chaotic being shaped like a dragon with a leonine head, symbolizing its raw power and ignorance. It didn't just exist. It believed itself to be the supreme ruler of all that existed, oblivious to the higher reality that preceded it. The ancient Gnostics preserved this fable as a warning. They believed that Yaldabaoth was not just a myth, but the force that governs the physical world, imprisoning humanity in the darkness of ignorance. He claimed to be God, proclaiming, "I am God, and there is no other besides me." However, he was unaware of the divine beings that existed before him, let alone the One, the invisible Spirit, who transcends time, matter, and understanding. According to Gnostic teachings, the true God did not create the material world directly. That creation resulted from a sequence of emanations known as aeons, each reflecting aspects of the divine fullness. These aeons inhabit the pleroma, a realm of perfect light and knowledge. Within this pleroma, each entity has its role in maintaining the universal balance. Sophia, one of these aeons, is the very embodiment of wisdom, but her solitary action disrupted the harmony, challenging the established order. By acting without a partner, Sophia strayed from the natural balance and gave birth to an imperfect being. Yaldabaoth, born of chaos, became the archetype of the ignorant creator, who knows neither his origin nor the higher spiritual realms. His limited vision led him to shape the physical world, a reflection of his own imperfection. For the Gnostics, the material universe is a place of suffering and limitation, a prison that keeps the divine spark of each human being in chains. The Gnostic story is an invitation to reflect on the dangers of imbalance and impulsive actions. Just as Sophia faced the consequences of her decision, we too can create chaos by acting without understanding or harmony. The story of Yaldabaoth echoes the challenges faced by those who get lost in their own disordered thoughts, allowing internal chaos to rule them. At the heart of this concept is the belief that every human being carries a spark of the true God, trapped inside the physical body. This spark, a fragment of the One, represents our connection with the divine. However, we are asleep, blind to our true nature, just as Yaldabaoth is blind to the higher realms. Awakening this knowledge, or gnosis, is the ultimate goal of life, according to Gnosticism. Only through this awakening can we free ourselves from the chains of the material world and return to the pleroma, to divine plenitude. For Gnostics, the plot of Yaldabaoth is not just an ancient myth, but a metaphor for the human condition. It reminds us of our tendency to act impulsively, guided by chaotic and unbalanced thoughts, without recognizing the consequences of our actions. Just like Sophia, we can create something that is beyond our control, shaped by chaos rather than harmony. Have you ever felt that there is something beyond what we know, a truth that pulses in the shadows, waiting to be revealed? Just as the divine spark awaits your awakening, there is transformative knowledge that can change your view of the world. In the forbidden name of Jesus, you'll find answers hidden for centuries that can illuminate your spiritual journey. And the best part, This gift is waiting for you in the first comment box. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. The creation of Yaldabaoth serves as a warning about the power of disordered thoughts. When we allow them to rule our lives, we end up moving away from light and wisdom. To regain balance, we need to look inwards, awaken the divine spark, and remember that we are more than the material world suggests. The search for gnosis is the search for this greater truth, for an understanding that frees us from the limitations imposed by chaos and ignorance. The Gnostic vision is not just a tale from another time, but a reflection on the dilemmas we face today. It reveals the dangers of ignoring universal harmony and challenges us to seek true knowledge, to recognize the divine within us, and to free ourselves from the chains that bind us. Enlightenment, according to the Gnostics, is not just about following rigid rules or worshipping a distant and unattainable God. Rather, it is an inner awakening, a realization that each human being carries within them a fraction of the divine, and that the material world acts as a prison carefully designed to block access to true spiritual potential. More than a religious alternative, this vision represented a frontal challenge to the dominant beliefs of his time, especially the doctrines that the early Christian church was beginning to establish. As a result, many Gnostic texts were labeled heretical and their ideas suppressed. Between the 2nd and 4th centuries, in the midst of intense theological and philosophical debates, the Gnostic teachings emerged as a disruptive voice. They openly challenged the idea that the God who created the material world was perfect, suggesting instead that this being was ignorant and limited. For the Christian church in formation, such a statement threatened the structure of its doctrines, which led to an effort to silence these thoughts considered subversive. By proposing that true divinity transcends the physical world and that material creation is a trap, the Gnostics offered an explanation for the suffering and imperfection of earthly existence. This approach highlights the idea that imbalance and lack of understanding can lead to chaos. For the Gnostics, the physical world is the end result of this chaos, a distortion created by a being who was unaware of its own origin and the existence of a higher divinity. Ignorance, from this perspective, is more than a state of mind. It is a force that creates disorder. This concept echoes the way the human mind can fragment when it loses connection with its greater essence. Before its fragmentation, the universe was compared to a perfectly ordered mind. Every thought had its counterpart, and all ideas coexisted in harmony. This state of perfection was described as the pleroma, the realm where divine unity and pure thought dwelled. In this ideal environment, wisdom prevailed, maintaining the balance necessary for clarity and peace. It's a state that the Gnostics considered essential for enlightenment, something that human beings can also seek on their own inner journeys. If we transpose this idea into modern terms, Yaldabaoth can be seen as a destructive thought pattern or a limiting belief. When an idea that is not in tune with reality becomes dominant, it can distort our view of the world. Just as Yaldabaoth saw himself as the only God, we sometimes allow misguided thoughts to take over, blinding us to other perspectives and deeper truths. These patterns can imprison us, restricting our personal and spiritual growth. The awakening of your divine spark cannot wait. Units of the forbidden name of Jesus are running out fast. Secure your access before it's too late. The Gnostics used the figure of Yaldabaoth as a metaphor for disconnection and lack of self-awareness. His ignorance of the higher realms reflects the human difficulty in recognizing that we are part of something greater. When we lose our sense of unity, our minds become disordered. This disintegration is not only individual, but also collective, affecting our ability to see beyond the limitations imposed by material reality. This Gnostic vision is therefore an allegory for the human quest for enlightenment. The physical world, according to them, was created as a prison, a place that holds us captive in ignorance. This perspective sees matter as an illusion, a deception that diverts our attention from our divine essence. Although this idea seems radical, it is not so far removed from other spiritual and philosophical traditions that also see the human condition as marked by distractions and illusions. We are often captured by the demands and concerns of everyday life, forgetting to look inwards and reflect on the deeper meaning of our existence. This human condition, described by the Gnostics as a state of spiritual oblivion, is one of the greatest challenges in the quest to understand who we really are. They believed that awakening to one's true divine nature was the only way to escape the limitations of the material world and achieve enlightenment. The Gnostic view suggests that achieving inner unity is not only possible but essential. Recognizing the illusion of the material world and awakening to what is divine within us is the key to transcending the traps of suffering and ignorance. This concept, which was once seen as heretical, continues to resonate as a timeless call to self-discovery and the search for a greater purpose. For the Gnostics, the essence of their spiritual vision was not the veneration of a god or obedience to imposed norms. They proposed something much deeper, awakening to the truth that we are divine beings, temporarily imprisoned in an imperfect material world. This realization, according to them, was the key to escaping the dominion of Yaldabaoth, the ignorant creator, and overcoming the limitations imposed by physical existence. This search for enlightenment, which goes beyond dogmas and traditions, finds echoes in various philosophical and spiritual currents. Whether it's the search for nirvana in Buddhism, Plato's allegory of the cave, or even modern psychology's focus on self-awareness, the essence remains. True freedom arises from understanding who we are and the nature of the reality in which we live. However, the Gnostics took this idea beyond the individual. For them, this knowledge was not only a personal awakening, but also a restorative force of universal balance. When humanity connects with its divine nature, it contributes to Sophia's return to the higher realms and the restoration of the divine order. At the heart of the Gnostic teachings is the duality that permeates all things: light and darkness, wisdom and ignorance, spiritual and material. For them, the pleroma, the spiritual realm, was the abode of true reality. This realm, inhabited by the aeons, represented the fullness and perfection of the divine mind. The aeons, however, are not gods in the conventional sense, but aspects of divinity, such as wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Sophia, for example, is the personification of wisdom, an essential force in the cosmic balance. When Sophia acted independently, without collaboration or harmony, she triggered a rupture. Her act resulted in the creation of something unbalanced: Yaldabaoth, a being born out of chaos and ignorance. His existence symbolizes a break with the divine order, an expression of how isolated thoughts or actions, disconnected from the totality, can generate disorder. He represents imbalance personified, the fruit of incomplete thinking, which in turn generates disastrous consequences. This unique opportunity to access the forbidden name of Jesus is almost gone. Don't miss your chance to unlock the secrets that can transform your spiritual journey. Yaldabaoth's ignorance is so vast that he believes himself to be the only God, oblivious to the higher spiritual beings who preceded him. For the Gnostics, he was not necessarily malicious but deeply flawed. His creation, the material world, reflects this limitation. True evil, according to them, does not lie in deliberate malice, but in ignorance that leads to disconnected and disordered actions. This view reflects the way the Gnostics approached human problems. They understood that a lack of awareness and wisdom not only created personal difficulties, but also disorder in the surrounding world. For this reason, the focus on acquiring gnosis, true knowledge, was central to their philosophy. Gnosis, for them, was the way to overcome ignorance, transcend the material world, and liberate the divine spark that inhabits each individual. Yaldabaoth, as the creator of the physical universe, is a central figure in the Gnostic worldview. His ignorance of the true divine order resulted in a flawed world, marked by suffering, confusion, and limitations. For Gnostics, the physical body is seen as a prison for the soul, a cage that contains the divine spark, a fraction of the true God that resides in every human being. This contrast between the imprisoned divine and the imperfection of the material world is a reflection of the tension that permeates the Gnostic teachings. They believed that ignorance was the root of all imbalances and suffering. When we act without awareness, we create disorder, both in our lives and in the universe. This is the central point of Yaldabaoth's role. He is a metaphor for the thought patterns or beliefs that keep us stuck, unable to perceive the bigger picture. Although the material world is marked by imperfections, the Gnostics believed that these flaws are not definitive. Liberation from the clutches of Yaldabaoth and the physical realm is possible through knowledge that goes beyond common facts or information. It is a deep and intimate understanding of our true divine essence and our connection with the higher God, who transcends the limitations of the material world. This awareness is the first step towards realizing that existence is not just about what we can see, touch, or measure. It is the awakening to a greater truth, which allows us to reconnect with the divine source and thus escape the imperfect world that surrounds us. Spiritual awakening is not just a distant possibility, it is a call to rediscover who we really are. By freeing ourselves from the illusions that obscure our vision, we open the way to reconnecting with the divine source. According to the Gnostics, this connection allows us to overcome the limitations imposed by the chaos and suffering of the material world, created by Yaldabaoth. This process requires a willingness to look beyond appearances, facing what is hidden behind the distractions and beliefs that shape our daily lives. This ancient lesson is not just a mythological tale, but a mirror of our lives. Imbalance and ignorance, when left unchecked, can distort our reality, both on a personal and collective level. Yaldabaoth, the fruit of Sophia's reckless and isolated thinking, represents the chaos that arises when wisdom is replaced by disharmony. This symbolic figure reminds us of the danger of losing connection with our essence and the confusion that results from actions disconnected from true understanding. Time is running out, and access to the forbidden name of Jesus is running out. Connect with divine knowledge before this chance disappears. The material world, according to this vision, is an imperfect creation, the result of a primordial imbalance. Suffering, illusion, and confusion are the hallmarks of this imperfect reality. However, the deeper meaning of this story transcends the realms of divine beings. It speaks directly to our own lives and how we deal with the challenges and distractions that take us away from our true nature. Even as we stumble through the struggles of everyday life, we often remain unaware of the truths that shape the reality in which we live. Within each of us, however, there is a divine spark, something pure and connected to true knowledge. This essence is obscured by false beliefs, incessant distractions, and the constant noise of modern life. The Gnostics remind us that this spark is not lost, it just needs to be rediscovered. For them, the search for gnosis, transformative knowledge, was the way to overcome ignorance and transcend the limitations of the material world. Yaldabaoth, as the creator of the physical world, symbolizes the chains that bind us to the routine and illusions of everyday life. However, the Gnostics claimed that we hold the key to escaping this prison. Realizing that we are more than our physical existence is crucial to this liberation. We are part of something greater, and awakening to this truth is what reconnects us to the divine source. This ancient message challenges us to pause, reflect, and see beyond the distractions that consume our days. Often, we are so caught up in the daily rush and demands that we forget to consider the deeper purpose of our existence. This ancient wisdom invites us to look inwards, to awaken to our true divinity, and to realize that this search is not only possible, but essential for achieving a full and meaningful life. By seeking true knowledge, we regain control over our lives and overcome the limitations that hold us back. Gnosis is not just an abstract idea. It is an invitation to rediscover the inner power that can transform our reality. The answers we seek are within us, waiting for the moment when we are ready to discover them. The power to free ourselves from ignorance, transcend the limitations of the material world, and reconnect with the divine is within everyone's reach. It's a journey that requires courage, introspection, and an open mind to the deeper truths that exist beyond what is visible. Are you ready to start your own quest for this awakening? The choice is yours. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and become a member for a symbolic fee to support us. This helps us bring you quality content. Don't forget to activate notifications so you don't miss anything. Thanks, and see you in the next video.